Where is my clothes and cosmetics? Hey, you. My clothes and cosmetics are missing. Do you know anything about it? I don't know anything. I thought, if my husband doesn't know, then it must be that boy. Hey, have you seen my clothes and cosmetics? They're missing.
Ah.
I threw them away. No point in you trying to look fancy, old hag. They were just an eyesore. It turns out the culprit was my son. Though he is my husband's son from another marriage. We had a good family relationship before, and he was not the type to do such things. Now, he has become completely unruly and quite violent. What is this? Could it be a burglar? No. It's only the dining room that's been tampered with. Not again. The dining room was a mess with tables and appliances destroyed. I can't take it anymore. This can't go on. But, what should we do? It's dangerous to interfere rashly. It might be a bit drastic, but, can you help me? My husband and I decided to implement a strategy to handle our uncontrollable son. I hope this will help him get back on track. I am 48 years old and work in research. My husband is 55 and works in sales. Although my husband Sean and I are older. We haven't been together for long as it's a remarriage from 3 years ago. I married in my 20s and thought I would never marry again after. My first marriage failed, but I met my husband through an acquaintance. He also had a divorce and we bonded over our failed marriage stories. My ex-husband used a new cup every time he drank something. And he'd just leave them around without washing them. So, cups were left all over the living room, bedroom, and everywhere. And I had to collect them. It was such a hassle. My wife used to do that too. She often came home drunk, and for some reason, she would take off her socks everywhere. I was surprised when I found socks in the kitchen floor storage. At first, we spent time as friends. But gradually I was drawn to my husband's sincere personality. And he seemed to be interested in me, leading us to date and eventually marry. I never thought I'd remarry, but marriage turned out to be not so bad. Before marrying, I wasn't particularly anxious. But my husband had something he needed to tell me, and it seemed to worry him. Hey, once we're married, you'll be living in my house, right? There's something I need to tell you. What? Is it something important?
Yeah.
Daniel will be coming back home for about a year. Daniel? Why? He says he's going to get married. He wants to save up for the wedding by living frugally at home. He plans to do this for about a year. You seemed worried about that? I thought it was something more serious. Daniel's marriage is a happy occasion, and saving money is respectable. Plus, it's only for a year, right? I'm totally fine with it. Although our marriage was brief, I didn't have any children. However, my husband has a 27-year-old son named Daniel. I had met the son several times during our dating period. And he was supportive of our marriage. I'm glad. It's better for Dad to have someone with him than to be alone. Since the relationship was good, I agreed to live with the son. However, this light-hearted decision to live together for just 1 year would later lead to a major incident. After marrying, I moved into my husband's house. I've been here a few times, but it's a nice house. Not really. It's been 15 years since it was built, and it's starting to fall apart. My husband built the house 15 years ago. It was well maintained and looked clean. Welcome, or should I say, welcome back? I'll help you with your luggage. Thank you. Even after the cohabitation started, the relationship with the son remained good. I really thought it was good to remarry. However, this happy life did not last long. Daniel isn't up yet? Is he oversleeping? He'll be late for work. I'll go wake him up. One day, a few months after we started living together, the son didn't get up in time for work. I thought he shouldn't be late, so I went to wake him up. Daniel. Are you still sleeping? Are you okay? You'll be late for work. I knocked on my son's door and tried to wake him up, but he was already awake. Mom, I'm off work today. It's okay. Oh, is that so? Sorry. I thought you were going to be late. Rest well. I didn't think much of it that day, but from the next day on, I began to feel something was off with my son. Daniel. Are you oversleeping? You'll be late for work. I'm off today. I have 2 days off. The next day, the son said he was off work. And the following day too. You'll be late for work. Wake up. Shut up. I'm off today. Didn't you say you had 2 days off yesterday? Is your job really okay? I said shut up. Thinking it strange to have 3 days off in a row on weekdays. We decided to call our son to the living room that night and ask him about the details. You seem to have been off work for a while. Is everything really okay with your job? I quit my job because it doesn't matter anymore. Quit your job? Aren't you supposed to be saving for your wedding? What will you do now? You're slow. The wedding is off, so there's no need to save money anymore. Why did that happen? It's because my affair got exposed. It appears that although Daniel moved back home to save money, he began to relax and play as his savings grew. Previously, he managed all household chores by himself when living alone. But now with 3 people at home, chores are shared, giving him more free time. With both money and time on his hands, he ended up having an affair. I apologized desperately, but she wouldn't forgive me. Honestly, since the broken engagement was his fault, it serves him right. However, we must be careful with our words, as criticizing him harshly might drive our already unstable son to recklessness. In fact, he already seems reckless. Therefore, we can't be too harsh on him right now. I see. That must have been hard. You need some rest to calm your mind now. You're not a kid anymore, so I won't say anything if you decide to quit your job. But make sure you don't regret it. I know. Just leave me alone for a while. To think that we would end up in such a situation just a few months after starting to live together. And the situation keeps getting worse. I'll leave your meal here. A year later, Daniel quit his job and became confined to his room. Except for going to the bathroom and shower, he doesn't leave his room. And I leave his food in front of his room. Once he's done eating, he places it outside his room, and I collect it. It feels like I'm delivering food inside the house. While we are at work, he uses food delivery services for his meals. He also seems to be buying various items online, like musical instruments, workout gear, and model kits, and deliveries arrive daily. After living like this for a year, Daniel has used up all his saved money. Welcome back. Were you at work today? Wash this apron and towel. With no money left, Daniel started working part-time at a restaurant. Although he began to leave his room because of the job, his personality turned prickly. And his once bright and kind demeanor had vanished. He's become more conversational than when he was confined. But he doesn't respond to our questions and often just states what he wants to be done. I'm constantly told to do this and that, making me feel more like a housemaid than a family member. I understand he might be upset about the failed marriage. But his attitude is simply too harsh, and even my husband has had to scold him. Listen, I won't nag you about work, but can you at least try to behave properly at home? That attitude towards your mother isn't acceptable. Huh? My mother? You mean that old hag who just showed up and acts like she's been here forever? What are you talking about? You used to call her a mom. What's this about calling her an old hag? Stop it, both of you. I'm fine. Daniel must be going through a tough time. It was common for the atmosphere at home to turn sour when Daniel was scolded. If things continued this way, the family might fall apart. So eventually, both my husband and I stopped scolding Daniel. Some might think we should try to talk things over with our son. But it's hard to have a conversation when he's this rejecting. We could only watch over him, and another year passed. I'll be back at 1 a.m., so have dinner ready. Understood. Even after 2 years, Daniel's situation hasn't changed. He continues his part-time job and still treats me like a housemaid. However, thinking that maybe we could start to bridge the gap after 2 years, I attempted to make small talk with him. Daniel, don't you meet any nice girls at your job? Aren't there any women there? What do you mean, nice people? Just because you and Dad are doing well doesn't mean you can lord it over me. Are you trying to brag or what? That wasn't my intention. Romance in your 50s is just disgusting. It was supposed to be a hopeful topic. Thinking that finding a new love might help him move on from his past lover. But it seems I struck a nerve with my son. The gap between us has only deepened. And it seems he was particularly upset by this conversation. Where's my clothes and cosmetics? Hey, you. My clothes and cosmetics are missing. Do you know anything about it? I don't know anything. I thought, if my husband doesn't know, then it must be that boy. I confronted my son. Hey, have you seen my clothes and cosmetics? They're missing.
Ah.
I threw them away. No point in you trying to look fancy, old hag. They were just an eyesore. It turns out the culprit was my son. The gentle young man who helped move my belongings during the move is nowhere to be found. He has completely changed. Daniel. It seems you threw away your mother's clothes and cosmetics. How could you do such a thing? Stop nagging. Good grief, getting married at your age. You're just an eyesore. We had hoped he would settle down, but instead. Daniel became more aggressive after being scolded by his father. He then kicked and broke our bedroom door. Could my son really possess the strength to break a door? The thought of him becoming violent is chilling. Another year passed, and Daniel's aggression intensified. One early morning, my husband and I were eating breakfast when our son glanced at us and left the house. That night, when my husband and I came home, the dining table and appliances were completely destroyed. What is this? Could it be a burglar? No. Only the dining room has been tampered with. Could it be? Daniel. The devastated dining room had the table flipped over. And items like the pot and condiments that had been on it were scattered on the floor. The front glass of the toaster was also broken. Inside, there was a small bottle of salt that seemed to have been thrown. Maybe our son didn't like that we had breakfast together? Oh, you're back? I made some work for you, so clean it up properly, maid. And since it might be too much for one person, let the maid's husband help out. It appeared our son was home, and he came to the dining room when he noticed we had returned. You. Stop. It'll just turn into another argument. I stopped my husband, and our son went back to his room laughing. I can't take this anymore. This can't go on. But, what are we going to do? You stopped me earlier, didn't you? It's dangerous to intervene rashly. It's escalating, and if it turns to violence, it'll be serious. It might be a bit harsh, but can you help me? My husband and I decided to carry out a plan for our uncontrollable son. We hoped this would help him get back on track. 2 months after the dining room was trashed, we called a recycle shop for home pickup. I'd like you to take all the furniture and appliances, except for those in the back room upstairs. Could you check what can be sold and what can't? The back room upstairs was our son's room. Hearing noises or voices, our son came down from that room. Hey, what are you doing? Before you break or throw anything else away. I thought we'd sell all the furniture and appliances that can be sold. They're not things you bought, so there shouldn't be a problem, right? Huh? What do you mean by that? How do you plan to live? Not just the furniture and appliances, but I'm selling the house too. So, I intend to replace them with new ones when we move. What do you mean? Selling the house? The house is 20 years old and soon won't be worth much. So I thought it's better to sell it while it still has some value. That's not what I meant. Why do we need to sell the house? Because living with you any longer, I never know when I might be in danger. Also, you've said before that you find us an eyesore, right? So, I thought it's better if we live separately. It might be tough without a maid. But you'll have to manage on your own from now on. Suddenly faced with the news of the house being sold, my son, clearly bewildered, clutched his head in a manner as if straight out of a manga. No way, this is Dad's house. You, a maid, selling it? Dad would never agree to that, right?
Yeah.
This house is important to him. He would never do such a thing. You seem to be mumbling something, but I've decided to sell this house. It's not just your mother acting on her own. Why would you decide to sell this house? Did this maid whisper something to you? What are you talking about? The house is technically in my name. But it's almost as if it's your mother's property. Huh? Since I moved here 3 years ago, I've been paying $2,300 a month towards the mortgage. No way, don't lie. $2,300 a month is too much. I increased the monthly repayment amount to reduce the interest on the mortgage as soon as possible. I earned more than my husband. Thus, I took on the mortgage payments to keep the interest costs down, while my husband covered living expenses like groceries and utility bills. As a wife who has lived in this house and paid over $80,000 towards the mortgage in these 3 years, I believe I have the right to suggest selling the house. Moreover, my husband agreed with my proposal, so there's no issue with selling the house. The house is going to be gone? Where will I move to? I can come with you, right? Didn't I say we're living separately? If you need a maid, you might want to use a housekeeping service. By the way, the house transfer is in 3 days. Make sure you're out by then. Why so sudden? A house isn't something that can be sold as quickly as furniture or appliances, right? That's right. So, we've been preparing for several months. Why didn't you tell me anything? It's not that you've been rejecting us. Every time we tried to talk, you were violent and scary. Not telling our son about the house sale until the last minute wasn't really because he was violent and scary. Selling the house was meant to force him into a situation where he had to fend for himself, in hopes of helping him restart his life and get his act together. If we had told him earlier, it likely would have led to another confrontation. There was also a chance he might react violently to being told to leave. Therefore, we took the significant step of selling the house. What should I do now? If things stay this way, I'll lose the house. If you want to keep living here, will you pay the mortgage? even if we reduce the monthly payments? I doubt you can cover it with your part-time job earnings. Or maybe you can rent after selling. Well, that might be tough with your current income. My husband and I wanted our son to experience a situation where he had to figure things out on his own. It was a harsh approach, but we believed that by doing so, he would be compelled to take action and find it easier to make a recovery. So, I just need to leave within 3 days, right? Seemingly realizing that this couldn't go on, he surprisingly backed down more easily than expected and returned to his room. We had the furniture and appliances picked up, and we moved out 2 days later. The day after moving, we went to the house for the handover. I thought Daniel might still be there. My husband and I thought that our son might still be at the house, unable to find a place to move immediately. However, when we checked the house, Daniel was not there, and his room was empty. After successfully handing over the house and returning to our new place, I apologized to my husband. I'm sorry for suggesting we sell your beloved house. If it helps Daniel rehabilitate, I don't mind about the house. Plus, I bought that house during my previous marriage, so I'm not attached to it. And, we got a better price than I thought, so there isn't much mortgage left. My husband said that our son's rehabilitation was more important than the house. I really did remarry a wonderful person. Now, we can only hope that our plan helps Daniel rehabilitate, as there's no way we can help him with that. However, since Daniel shares his father's blood, and despite his terrible attitude up until now, I wasn't too worried. We hadn't heard from him since moving out, but 2 years later, he suddenly contacted us. I'm sorry for everything. I'm managing to get by now. The tough love approach seemed to have worked. However, the path he took was quite bleak. After leaving the house, Daniel struggled to find an affordable apartment near his workplace with his income. Consequently, he crammed his belongings into a storage unit and lived in an internet cafe for a while. He became what is known as a net cafe refugee. Sometimes, when he was short on money before payday, he would sleep in the storage unit, although staying there overnight was against the contract. So he could not rest easy. After 6 months of living as a net cafe refugee and reaching his physical and mental limits, the owner of the restaurant where he worked offered him a job. Daniel started working as a resident staff member at a new restaurant opened by an acquaintance of the owner, and he was able to get his life back on track. As he began to put his life back together, he started to reflect on his reckless behavior and felt overwhelmed by regret every day. That's when he decided to contact us. If you understand now, that's good. You should come and show your face sometime. I don't think I can face you two just yet. I'll do it once I've established myself in my job. It seems Daniel is like his father, inherently honest. But because of his honesty, he deeply regrets his past actions, which I believe causes him pain. Daniel's next challenge will be to overcome this regret. It won't be easy, but I believe he can do it. My husband and I started living just as a couple for the first time since our remarriage. Relieved to have heard from our son, we can now enjoy our belated honeymoon phase.